Channel news. Okay. This week's channel news is, again, going to be random. And if I skip around a lot, and if I'm a little bit scatterbrained, it's because I have symptoms of ADHD. Okay. First thing I want to talk about on channel news is the auction. Now, and last minute bidding. Yeah. That is what usually ends up being the issues with the auction. The last minute bidding. Now, I'm going to give you a pointer on how to bid at the last minute, even though I don't want you to do it. If you are going to do it, I'm going to give you like a strategy, and I'm going to expand on the way things work at the last minute. So if you're concerned that you're going to be outbid at the last minute, you can bid more than once close to the end, and I'm only going to take the bid that wins over someone else's bid, not your own bids. You know what I mean? Like on eBay, if you bid more and more and more to try to prevent other people from outbidding you, you have to pay the amount of your last bid, even though you're not bidding against other people. I think that's how it works. It might be different now, but anyway, on my channel, you can bid at the last minute as many times as you want, and I'm only going to take the bid that beat the other guy. I'm not going to take your last bid. No, I'm going to go back to a lower bid to see what is the lowest bid that beat the other guy or other guys or gals. Okay? So you can bid a lot at the last minute to try to prevent sniping. Yeah. Now, I hope it doesn't get out of hand, because it's difficult for me to keep refreshing and figure out who actually is on time. But, that's just something I got to deal with because I'm doing the auctions on eBay, which is not the greatest format. So I've got to pay the price for doing it that way. So just to let you know, when you bid more than once at the last minute and it seems like you're bidding against yourself, you're not really in my auction. I'm only going to count that bid that beats the other guy, not your final bid. You know what I'm saying? I'll go back and I'll say that you won at that lower price. Okay? I hope that's clear. I might do a write-up on that. Okay, that's the first thing. Because, Christmas is coming. I wish I had a lot more items to offer, but it's going to be tight. I'm not going to be able to get very many items made. Next year, hopefully, will be a better as far as time-wise. I just don't have much time this year. Okay? For personal reasons, for family reasons. Okay, so that's the first thing. What is the next thing? I did write some notes that have to do with Flintknapping. Yeah. And not with governing the mint, if you know what I mean. I'm going to do a lecture video on beveling and, not beveling, but how to prepare an edge for striking or pressure flaking with a bevel. It's not specifically beveling, it's more a video on how to use a bevel for driving flakes into the interior. So I can explain it in detail. Some of you guys are into fracture mechanics, and engineering stuff is right up my alley. I've forgotten most of it because I don't have a need for it anymore. Apparently, sometimes I do, though, and somebody mentioned two things that are part of fracture mechanics and fracture analysis specifically. And these things are hackles, HACKLES, FLKES, and Wallner lines, WALLNER lines. And what hackles are they look like lines that are in the stone, right? But they're in the direction of force. They look like cracks almost, and they run in the direction of force. And I suppose they are cracks, and they can lead to fractures in that direction. It can split the workpiece in our line of work. And Wallner lines are the waves in the or the ripples in the flakes. In our case, it's the flakes and surfaces of the workpieces. Now, these are present in glass. When you're analyzing fractures in glass, you are concerned with hackles and Wallner lines because hackles indicate the direction of force. So if there's an accidental breakage and you don't know what caused it or where it started, you can follow the hackles. They'll point toward the origin. They radiate out. They're like radial cracks. They radiate out from the point of origin. They look like cracks, okay? And they do radiate out. So you can judge where the impact originated or the fracture originated. The Wallner lines, as far as this is concerned, the particular study that I was reading, the Wallner lines indicate changes in fracture velocity. So it's not steady, which means it's vibrating somehow, or there's a frequency in the intensity. Frequency just means up and down intensity, okay? And there's that frequency can be rather random or it can be very steady. And what causes the Wallner lines or the hackles, I'm not going to get into that other than to say that we try to avoid both of those. Ripples and those hackles or Wallner lines are something we don't want in the knapping. So I'm not going to get into how to create those or to how to modify them other than to eliminate them. And what I find eliminates both of those is keeping the force to a reasonable level. Reasonable, another word for it is to be in the Goldilocks zone where you're not exerting too much force or too little force. And the ripples are caused, in this case, in this study, the way they were analyzing this type of fracture, I think it was through glass, is a variation in fracture velocity. Now, I don't know why the fracture velocity would vary other than the force at the point of impact was also variable. It's a variable force on the point of impact or point of pressure. I don't know if we deal with intentional variation in the force at the point of impact or the point of pressure. I don't think we deal with that, but it can happen that it is variable, especially if the material is spongy, I think, what you're using to impart the force. But it probably also can be if the material is bouncy. Okay? If you're bouncing off the platform with a bouncing material, or if it's spongy and springy on the platform, I think it yields the same kind of result as far as differences in the velocity of the fracture. Okay? Now, I'm not going to explore these things or try to increase the amount of rippling or show you how to produce rippling to create an effect that might exist on an artifact. I'm not going to get into that probably ever in my flint knapping. It's just too persnickety. Okay? Yeah. I just prefer to eliminate those. Try to reduce or eliminate the differences in velocity or differences in force at the point of impact or point of pressure. I try to keep my mindset focused on steady pressure or steady impact force. Okay? I think that yields the best type of flaking. All right. Now, I already went over how to make... I'm changing the subject now. I already went over how to make little bifaces and workpiece, preliminary workpieces out of glass. But I'll do another one on that too. I'll do a second video on that too. Because I've got more glass that is different from the glass I showed in the last video. And you're going to make little arrowheads like this most of the time from glass that's thin glass. I've got some thicker glass, so I'll be showing that. Okay. Next subject. I had something written here about my auctions. Getting back to the auction, if you are the type of person that doesn't, well, let's put it this way. Let's use the expression, if you can't stand the heat, stay out of the kitchen. The auctions get pretty hot. Okay? And tempers get pretty hot sometimes too. So if you can't stand the heat in the auction kitchen, then I recommend that you not enter the kitchen. Okay? All right. That's all I'll say on that one. Okay, now I can just wing it. That's all the notes I had. Today's soup is nothing but beef broth, organic beef broth. And it's okay. I can make a better one. This is just straight from the container of beef broth. It does have salt, I believe. But yeah, it depends on the meat, the cut of the meat that you use for the broth and for the stock, I think, right? Because if you add bone marrow to it, if you add a bunch of goodies into the mix while you're making the broth and then strain it out, you get a lot of good flavors. This one is pretty bland. Yeah. So I'll make some of my own this winter. Yeah, I'll get more into it. I use a slow cooker. I'll slow cook it and then I'll strain it for my soups. Yeah. Easy peasy. I started a cigar before I started the video. It already went out. But yeah, I start the cigar so I can start thinking. But I like the smell of it in general. I don't have to light it to relax and to start thinking. It just the smell of it. And yeah, I'm not monetizing the news videos so I can talk about whatever I want, right? So I talk about tobacco too. I said I wasn't going to get back into it, right? Yeah, I fell off the wagon. Because I'm not doing the pipe thing. Somehow I like the smoke. Yeah, the smoke, not to smoke, but I like the aroma of the smoke. Believe it or not, I like the aroma of the tobacco smoke. I don't inhale this into my lungs, for those of you who are new. It's just a matter of tasting the smoke and the tar and all that stuff. And I do inhale it through my nostrils. There's a way you can blow it out your nose from your mouth without getting it in your lungs. It's still going to cause cancer if I smoke a lot. So I'm not going to do it a lot. Yeah. What else? I'm finishing up some projects. This is for somebody. It's transparent mostly, but you can't tell. Anyway, that took me forever. This is low quality obsidian, but it makes a nice point. That took me forever yesterday, and I've been spending time doing side projects instead of napping for the auction for at least 3 weeks. That's why some of these auctions have items that are easy to make, or only the items I've made on video. Not a lot of extra items like I was hoping. Yeah, I always hope to make a lot of extra items on the side, but I try not to nap more than 3 days a week. because it does get me burnt out, both physically and mentally. You know, get napper's cramp, especially if I practice pressure flaking. But yeah, I am going to be working out more as time progresses to build up the muscles I need to do the advanced, quote unquote, advanced pressure flaking that is seen on some of these artifacts. So there will be that, but I still will limit my flint napping to 3 days a week, although I might sneak it in during short periods of time on the other days. I've got other projects to work on and some stuff I want to test, but I need a new bow and arrow set or several new bows and arrows. Okay. I bought myself a Christmas gift and I put it on the table here, but I'm wondering if I should actually, yeah. I bought myself a Beretta. Now, I like firearms. I prefer firearms to archery as far as hunting and everything else. And I've always wanted one of these. This is a Beretta 21A Bobcat in 25 ACP. It's the flip-up barrel. It's not loaded. And this is really cool. I've always wanted one. I had a 25 ACP, a different pistol many years ago. And I ended up selling it when I moved out of state. So yeah, this is one of my anti-anxiety things. Just stimming with the pistol, looking at it, testing out the different components, the trigger mechanism, and all that. I like the single and double action. I like the fact that it is a pocket pistol. The only thing I don't like on this is the mag release is right there. So I end up hitting that with this knuckle on my thumb when I pull it out, or when I draw the weapon out of a pocket or holster. I'll end up sometimes doing that, so I got to keep my thumb back here when I draw. But yeah, it's got a, on the 25 ACP, it's got an 8-round instead of a 7-round for the 22 long rifle version. I think these were made, I got the original box with it in the instructions. It's made in 1993. I like these a lot. It is pretty heavy for a pocket pistol, and it's very wide. So I don't plan on using it very much, except for target practice. I just like it. Yeah, and I'm going to be learning everything I can about it so I can be stimming with it. Disassembling, assembling, trying different holsters and carry positions. It's great. Yeah. And see, my kids sometimes, my daughters sometimes ask me what I recommend for stuff like that. So I'll have some basis to recommend this or not. I don't recommend this as a self-defense weapon. No. There are others that are better. Anyway, that made me happy. I just bought it for myself for Christmas. Yeah. What else can I talk about? Oh yeah, I've been leaning on this book. I use this book, and I recommend this book more than any other book if you're going to be looking at what was made in the past. Now, I've said before that book's like 80% accurate, but it doesn't matter. Just look at the arrowheads in it, and you can see the variety of sizes, flaking, materials, and these are all actual sizes. Well, not all. Most of these are actual sizes, which is one of the best things in the book, is that these are actual sizes in most cases. And if it's not, they'll tell you it's 1/3 size, 1/2 size, etc. So yeah, I recommend that. The latest version, for some reason, I couldn't find the latest. I couldn't find in stock the latest version of this, the 15th edition. So I recommend getting the 12th edition, and that sort of thing. I got the 13th, but someone bought this for me. A friend of mine actually bought this for me. I had the 11th edition way back when I first bought it. I don't know how old that one is, but that's the one I first got, 10th or 11th edition, and I was blown away by the number of different shapes and sizes, and the fact that actual arrow points are this tiny in many cases, or smaller. Actual arrow points, yeah, they're from the past. Now you can make an arrow point and use it today for hunting, as long as it's not a game animal. You know what I mean? As long as it's not for deer or some other game animal like that. You can hunt other game. You can hunt other animals that are not technically game animals with the very small points. Unless your state has no restriction, then you can hunt deer with these. Which I thought was fascinating, because I always had in my mind that arrowheads were, fairly large for arrows, but no, they can be very tiny. Okay. And work really well. I think that's it. Yeah, not even 30 minutes. I don't know what else to talk about. It is getting cold. I got my nice warm jacket on. It will be snowing here soon. It was supposed to snow last week or this week. But we got rain instead. All right, so let's see what else. I'm trying not to talk too loud because it's very quiet right now. The neighbor's not riding around on his motorcycle. There's not much activity, so I don't want to talk too loud. Yeah, I still got back orders, so maybe you can hear that train in the background. I still have back orders that I need to finish. Hopefully I'll be done with all the back orders before Christmas. That's the plan. It's supposed to be done by now, but as luck would have it, some of the projects are very difficult for me to get done because of very specific issues that are really either bad timing, or I'm having difficulty being successful with certain issues. And I want to get them right. Okay. One of them is with bowstrings. I've got one project that involves bowstrings, and I have to get them right because the person that is receiving the bowstrings doesn't have any experience with natural bowstrings. And they require a lot of skill to take care of. So I've got to make them in such a way that they don't require much maintenance, which is a very difficult thing to figure out. All right. What else? I will continue to make a lot of yapping videos. There's been suggestions that I'd be better off not talking at all, or talking very little, or talking in a certain way during my videos to increase my viewership. But every time I try that, the viewership goes down. So I'm just going to keep yapping and be silly and stupid and talking smack. Yeah. So there. All that advice, it didn't work. And I'm okay with it. I'm okay with yapping like crazy. And like I am crazy. Alrighty, so let's see. My soup is already cold. Already? It's like 40 some odd degrees. Perfect weather. Yep. Alrighty. That's it. I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.